G'day guys, and today we have good news out of the Korean Peninsula. You might not have heard about this news. It was reported on a few days ago, and I found this particular story from the Guardian tucked away on the bottom left hand corner of their homepage. So, North and South Korea have opened a liaison office on the north side of the border. This is effectively an open and permanent physical channel of communication which differs to their old method of communication, which was by fax and a special telephone communication network that was often cut off in times of high tension, as was often the case. So, quoting from Ri Son-gwon, the head of North Korea's delegation at the opening ceremony, the two sides are now able to take a large step towards peace, prosperity, and the unification of Korean Peninsula by quickly and frankly discussing issues arising from inter-Korean relationships. This is good news, of course. Any sort of increase in peace in the world, especially in a nuclear state, is to be taken seriously. And so there are obviously practical and symbolic reasons behind using this particular building. The practical, of course, is why bother building a new building? It was already there. But it's also symbolic. The building was once a site of a joint Korean business venture. It was owned by South Koreans, but its production line was staffed by North Koreans. This operation ran for about a decade before closing in 2016 due to rising tensions due to nuclear tests. So the reopening of a sort of hiccup in relations between the two Koreas is quite symbolic, as it's showing that both Koreas are working towards a more cordial relationship. The office will be staffed by 20 members of each nation, with officials from the delegates meeting each week for talks. I have to point out that this is more frequent than the talks between the EU and Britain, which is really saying something. This is obviously a sign of trust between the two nations, and if you don't consider it trust, at least respect, in that they won't go and kidnap each other's delegates, as each side has been known to do in the past. And of course, it's a symbolic gesture. These individuals, I mean, I can't know this for sure, but I imagine they are expendable. If they do get killed, no one will... respective countries won't collapse. But the symbolism is quite important in events such as this. It's adding up to certain other events that have happened, more for the public eye than for any concrete negotiations. We had the handshake across the border between President Moon and Kim Jong-un, the return of US power remains, and the dismantling of a nuclear test site. It's all designed to show good faith without losing face. And losing face is a key part of Asian politics. You need to understand that it's all about bravado and being a big man in the room and such things like that. And Trump is really good on this. People believe this is because he's done a lot of business in Asia. For example, before the meeting between Kim Jong-un and President Trump, Kim Jong-un, or at least his propaganda department, put out a slanderous report on Mike Pence. They called him weak and other such things like that. And Trump just cancelled the meeting immediately, just like that. Like he's not gonna want to go into the room looking weak like that. And of course, North Koreans basically turned around and begged the US to come back. So yes, Trump understands that you need to have a big sense of bravado. You need to be a big man in the room and such and things like that, which is why I think he's going to do really well there. Now, the key question on everyone's mind is, will denuclearization be achieved? Everyone seems to be fear-mongering about where North Korea can hit and will they hit someone and things like that. But I believe North Korea isn't stupid enough to nuke someone, because as soon as they do nuke someone, they could kill millions of people, but the entire country would be turned to glass. And that would end the sort of the power that Kim Jong-un loves. So out of, if nothing else other than greed, I doubt he's going to end up hitting someone. But will they give them up? I doubt it. Because you need to understand, if you're North Korea and you see the US coming in for foreign policy negotiations, and you have, you don't have a short-term memory loss, and you think back to Libya and Egypt and countries like that, anytime over the last 16 years in US admins, we have the Bush admin and the Obama admin, they are notorious for atrociously going into countries and warmongering after them. In Bush, it was very outright. They had ground invasions and things like that. But under Obama, it switched to a more silent war, the drones and things like that. But he did topple Libya and attempt to topple Egypt. So if I was a North Korean dictator, I would be slightly nervous about the US trying to get rid of my insurance policy, namely my nukes. So denuclearization, even though they've said they want to denuclearize by the end of Trump's first term, I'm not 100% convinced they'll go ahead with this because, well, if they look at US foreign policy, they're going to get a bit nervous that they're going to be toppled or anything like that. So long-term denuclearization, I'm not confident will occur at this time. But short-term renegotiations of sort of the war footing each country's seem to be on is going very well. They've moved their artillery back from the border. They've dismantled a nuke site. They've dismantled a missile site. If we have a quote from this Guardian article, Trump described a very warm letter from Kim Jong-un requesting another meeting. If this happens in DC, if a North Korean leader comes to the United States, then Trump's got 2020 in the bag. That will be his foreign policy victory that he may need to sort of talk about on the election trail. Thanks for all for sticking around, and have a good one.